Okay, hello and welcome to this session. We'll be discussing the basics of project management. As you are aware, project management is one of the most important concepts that has been weaved into the company program, which will help you deliver a very successful product at the end of the day. Start by asking, what is a project and what a project is not? So I'll try and define that. A project is actually a temporary endeavor, or put another way, temporary undertaking that has a definite beginning as well as a definite end. So if you are clear on the duration, this will take us maybe 1 week to complete. It's going to start on Sunday and it will finish on Saturday. So that defines a project. And also very important, it's a project creates or produces a unique product, service, or result. For the purpose of the company program, of course, your project is the create new product project. I believe by now you have identified the product of your company, and then you put a structured approach around creating that product. And that's what project management offers you. Now, I said earlier, I'll try and tell you what a project is not. A project, those three components, don't forget, it must have a definite beginning and a definite end. It must create a unique product, service, or result, and it is a temporary endeavor. So it's not something that is ongoing forever. So I'll give you a couple of examples to distinguish between what a project is and what a project is not. So you want to prepare breakfast for 10 people in 1 day. Would that be a project? Yes, it is a project because you need to put a lot of resources together, prepare, get the breakfast prepared, and you're done. But if you do that every day, maybe that is your work, you have to prepare breakfast for those 10 people on a daily basis without an end in sight, then that is no longer a project. That falls under the sphere of what we define as operations. So, but for the purpose of our engagement, we will be talking about project and project management. So what then is project management? It is basically the process of leading the work of a team or a group of people to achieve goals, project goals within some given constraints. That's actually how Wikipedia defines what a project is. And of course, it involves the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, techniques, and even bringing some experience to bear to deliver something of value to people. We'll talk a little bit more as we go along. But the question you would probably be asking yourself is, so why is it really important? Why is project management important? Good project management simply guarantees that the objectives of your project, the goals, the aims that you have set for yourself, that you can achieve them. We have so many examples all across the world. I'm sure you can identify some of these examples where you live about projects that have been started, maybe some government projects trying to construct a hospital, some roads, some bridges, some infrastructure development projects that just get stalled somewhere along the line. More often than not, when you look deep into what the problem is, you realize that it is the lack of good project management. And project management, of course, when it's done right, it saves you time, saves you costs, and it helps ensure that you deliver quality and satisfy your stakeholders. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about all these terminologies in the next few moments. Now, who is a project manager? So from what we've said earlier, you should have a sense of who a project manager is. It's simply a professional that's been trained in the field of project management. So he's experienced and understands has those skills. He understands the methodologies, the techniques that you bring to bear in delivering the project. For the purpose of our company program, of course, the project manager is the production manager. So that's the person you have all elected to be in charge of production for your company program. I will now quickly delve into the project management processes. There are 5 processes in all. We have what we call initiating, we have planning, we have executing, we have monitoring and controlling, then finally we have closing. So those are the 5 processes. I'll speak about each of these in a bit more detail. The initiating process is actually the very first one where you document your project goals. You want to be sure that you have clearly identified, you've refined, and you've documented what the goals of your project are. in this particular instance, your project is, remember, the create new product project. So you want to create a product that you have agreed as a company to produce, and you want to be clear what are the goals, what is this product supposed to achieve. Then you want to identify your stakeholders. A stakeholder is anybody who could be impacted by the project or who could impact the project, or put another way, anybody that has an interest in the project or whatever that has anything to do with it. So I'll give you some examples. You as the production manager, of course, you're a stakeholder. You have your sales team, you have your marketing team, you have your HR team. Outside of your company, you also have potential customers. They are stakeholders. Of course, you have your JA, junior achievement mentor. You have your teacher who's supporting you. You also have people that will probably be buying your product at the end of the day. So those are just some examples of stakeholders. And part of what you also do during the process of initiating is you identify what are the different assumptions that you are even, what assumptions are you making about the products you want to produce. For instance, some of the assumptions could be that you'd have enough funds to produce that product. Another assumption could be that, oh, within the time that you have, you'll be able to finish the production within that space of time. I talked about constraints earlier. So constraint is anything that limits you, that makes it difficult for you to achieve something. A constraint could be that, you have only 2 weeks. So whatever you have to do, you have to get it done within 2 weeks. And you also have to identify risks within your project. All of this you document in what we call a project charter. The project charter is actually a document that authorizes the project to commence. It's a formal document that gives authorization to the start of your project, or in this case again, production process. Of course, it identifies those goals and outcomes of the project as we have said earlier. Then you put together also a stakeholder register that will list the different stakeholders you have identified. We talked about assumptions, constraints, and risks. You put all this together in your project charter. Now, we mentioned, okay, no, I've not mentioned those before. So scope, you also define the scope of your project. Scope simply speaks to what exactly are we going to be producing. For instance, you want to produce a robot that can take man to the moon. That is your project. The scope includes producing a robot that takes man to the moon. What is out of scope? That project does not include producing a robot that can take man to Mars, to Venus, So you clearly define what is in scope, what is out of scope. Then you also list what we call project acceptance criteria. Meaning at the end of the day, when we're done with this project, what are those things, like a checklist that we can tick off? Our product must be of dimension 7x11. You tick that off. Our product must be able to fulfill this, must have these features, all those kind of things. Okay, so so far we've talked about what a project is, what a project is not, what project management is, as well as why it's important. And we've also talked about who a project manager is. Of course, as you know, the production manager for your company program is the project manager in this instance. And we've also introduced ourselves to the 5 processes of project management, starting with initiating. So we just discussed the initiating process. So in the next section, we will be talking about the remaining 4 processes: planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. So see you in the next section. Thank you.